You're watching Access Minnesota. Here's Jim Dubois.
In Minnesota, the bars must stop serving by 2 a.m. Grocery stores cannot sell alcohol, and there is no off sale of alcohol on Sundays. Where do these laws come from, and will they ever be changed? Access Minnesota talks with Frank Ball of the Minnesota Licensed Beverage Association to find these answers. Frank Ball is the Executive Director of the Minnesota Licensed Beverage Association. Frank, welcome to Access Minnesota.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Obviously, the list of Minnesota liquor laws is quite long. Can you highlight some of the laws that really have the greatest impact?
My goodness, that goes back to Prohibition. There was so much conflict that Congress decided, look, let's just legalize this stuff. We'll get some tax credit from it, and we'll divert down to the states where states can control their liquor. And that's what they did. In a Minnesota case, Minnesota established a three-tiered structure, which was suggested by Congress that the state should put together a structure where the manufacturer did not have a financial hold on the distributor or the retailer. So the three-tier structure is this. You've got a manufacturer who makes the product. You have the second tier is the wholesale tier, where they buy from the manufacturer. They wholesale at market. It gets taxed there again from the state, and then it's wholesale and distributed to the retailer that actually sells it to the public, both on sale, like Dan O'Gara's bar. He has on sale plus food. They consume it there, and then like MGM Liquors or Westside Liquor, they actually sell it to the public. They don't consume it. So it's on premise or off premise. And so far, over all these years, that seems to be true with most of the states. They've gone with the three-tiered structure. In fact, the term lock, stock, and barrel came from the breweries back in the 20s, where the brewers own the distribution system, and they also own the bars that they distributed through. So they control the price. This way, the three-tiered structure, the prices are established by the manufacturer. It's passed through the distribution system, and then it's passed through the retail system that's passed through to the public. I guess that's the best way to explain that.
When you compare Minnesota's alcohol laws with those of other states, where do we weigh in? Are we tending to be more on the restrictive side here in Minnesota?
Well, we're Minnesota nice. Minnesota was a little bit different from the surrounding states. When it came into Minnesota, if you remember, Youngdahl was the one that prohibited gambling. So we were very conservative when it came to society's mores, society's ways of doing things. So when we got the after Prohibition, it came in, and Minnesota set a very strong, stringent three-tiered structure, with strong oversight from the government and strong oversight from the municipalities and cities that were restricted on the number of licenses that they could give out. Also, during that time, Minnesota's small communities had peppered around the state, and in those communities you had the convenience store or the grocery store, you had a gas station, and you also had the pharmacy. In these pharmacies, they distributed medicinal use alcohol. So when it came through the distribution of it, the manufacturers were already in place. We already had a couple of breweries, like Shell's Brewery. Ted Marty's father was brewing root beer and non-alcoholic beer and be distributing it. So it was just a throw of a switch and a couple changing of vats that put liquor back into beer, so it was distributed. And in Minnesota, the pharmacies became liquor stores. And as the pharmacies went out of business and got moved around, the liquor stores developed. So many of our off-sale liquor stores in Minnesota, we've got about 3,500 on-sale and off-sale liquor stores in Minnesota. Many of them are multiple generations down. And they've been in operation, been good citizens, good stewards, and good taxpayers of these communities since Prohibition.
Are there any liquor laws that are unique to Minnesota?
Minnesota has a few unique. They don't allow wine and spirits into grocery stores, for example. Minnesota has a real strong public safety coalition to prevent underage drinking. We have some real strong laws in Minnesota to prevent the distribution of the sale to minors, for example. We have a strong training program mandate that they have to go through alcohol server training. Our members do anyway. And the other one is overconsumption. an over-distribution of it. And they have a good regulating system with the Alcohol Gambling Enforcement Division under the Department of Public Safety, and our members try to adhere to that function. Unlike the other states around us, Wisconsin didn't have much of an oversight. Matter of fact, I think they have 6,000 members, 6,000 bars, and there's no really space requirement difference, where Minnesota has space requirements and number of liquor licenses that can be distributed, both in statute and both in city ordinances.
In Minnesota, why do you think there's been so much resistance, for example, to allowing alcohol off sale on Sundays or allowing alcohol sales in grocery stores?
We have grown in this industry by our wholesalers supporting the retailers. We have grown in this industry by having the three tiers get along with each other and have a fair, equitable business. As any changes, any quantum leaps, does impact our membership and our stores. We're talking about all 87 counties now. We've taken the Sunday sales issue to the legislature, and we've aggressively opposed that for a number of reasons. One is that it just defers our revenue from 6 days to 7 days, and our costs amount because of having to work on Sunday. It sounds rather selfish, but many of these small off-sale liquor stores in these smaller communities are ran by a husband and wife or a couple, and that's where they get the ma and pa type stores. They don't want to work on Sundays. They spend Sundays with their families. More importantly, when you start drilling down on this, the retail stores in our convenience stores and gas stations have a 3-2 beer, malt liquor sales. If we were to go to Sunday sales, that would really impact that revenue stream for that industry. They would want the chance to catch up with possibly spirits and wine and strong beer, and that would lead us into the wine and grocery store debate that we've been adamantly opposed to as well. More importantly, what's coming our way are the multiple stores, the bigger stores, and many of these smaller cities, for economic reasons, want to bring in bigger stores. Bigger stores want to have a liquor license, and we're afraid of the number of liquor licenses being added to, and would curtail more of our problems in these stores.
Find out more about Minnesota's liquor laws when Access Minnesota returns.
Access Minnesota will return after these messages.